Well, here we are at the beginning. After all, Jesus starts the epilogue to the workbook for students, saying this course is a beginning, not an end, which we've been talking about over the past few days. Now, where does this leave you? Well, any number of places, but here we are, and very well done to you. We have arrived at the epilogue of the workbook for students, having been through a journey, for sure, of 365 lessons, some additional commentary, and in this series of videos, which, if you're joining me from Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel, is called on the network A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. So wherever you are tuning in from, we've been at this for over a year now, and here we are at the beginning. This reminds me of a story from my own spiritual practice that didn't involve me, but I find it highly, highly instructive and very analogous to a journey through the workbook for students, because whether you've done this before or whether this is the first time through or whether you've never done it and you're popping in on some of these lessons to check it out, right? It's a journey. And at times, as we let go of our ego identification and we just allow truth to be as it is, as we begin to see things as they really are, rather than how we would have them be and manipulate them to be, like we do in the world, like we do in our relationships, in our job, in our own physical health even. It can seem at times like quite a tall order, can't it? It can seem that this journey, which is intended to be one of joy and thanksgiving, because it's a homecoming of sorts, isn't it? It can be rife with what look to be difficulties along the way. As we give up our ego identification, the ego, even though it is not a separate thing, in fact, it doesn't exist at all, we take it to be real, so it appears to fight back. We have all kinds of judgmental thoughts, don't we? And we have days where we want to throw this thing in the trash. Take this book and toss it, because it can seem difficult. Yet we know that it's not. And even if you were to go through the workbook, begin, put it down for years even, and return to it, it's still a highly valuable practice. It is a beautiful and uplifting exercise for you to go through. Now, Jesus says, right, that this course can be taken as you elect. Your choice, right? It's a self-study course. You can take a little bit here, you can delve right into it and take a deep dive and do it all in one fell swoop. Of course, you have to do the workbook, one lesson per day maximum, right? That's a clear instruction, but you can do whatever you want with this material. And now that we've arrived at the epilogue, having been through 365 lessons, it's pretty clear, isn't it, that Jesus is absolutely right on this. This course is a beginning, not an end. So what can you choose to do? Well, what we'll be doing in this video series is moving on to the Manual for Teachers, which is one of the three major components of A Course in Miracles that we'll say more about in the coming days. This video series continues for sure. So it's not the end of this. Now, you could choose to take a break from the workbook, or you could choose to go right back into it. You could choose the manual for teachers. You could choose to read the text, or whatever order, whatever you feel called to do. And I would trust your guide. And that's what Jesus says in the second sentence of the epilogue when he says, your friend goes with you. Friend, capital F, the Holy Spirit, your guide. Now, the story from my own spiritual practice that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago is very similar to this workbook. This comes from my days at Kagyu Changchub Chuling in Portland, Oregon. That's a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner center, and really, really interesting. I spent several years studying under the tutelage of Lama Michael Conklin, and there is a Tibetan practice. It's traditional. It's been adopted here in the West, exactly as it was developed in the Himalayas and in Asia back hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's called Nundro, which is a series of practices one does a little bit every day. And there are 4 distinct phases, 4 distinct practices or exercises to this that one does a lot over the course of years. And there is a text, a traditional Tibetan text that governs the practices, goes through them. And a very experienced Buddhist practitioner who is now a Lama, a teacher herself in this lineage, once finished Nundro and approached Lama Michael very excited, saying, I've done it, kind of eureka, it's done, I'm finished. She approached him in this manner, having learned a great deal about herself and who she is and who we all are, and reality and truth and all of that. It's quite similar to what we're doing here with the workbook in A Course in Miracles. And she came to Michael with this giddy, childlike attitude, and she asked him, what now? And he had a copy of the text, which he held up, put right in front of her, unopened, pointed at it, and said, here. And to hear her talk about this years after the fact, laughing, is a very good thing, because she quickly learned the lesson that Jesus wants to impart to us today. And that is, this course is a beginning, not an end. Where you go, well, your friend, your guide, goes with you. I've been referring throughout this series of videos on the workbook to your inner teacher. That's what Jesus aims to do. He aims to teach us a thought system. He aims to have us get in touch with our inner teacher so that our inner teacher may guide and direct us. And the epilogue really beautifully and articulately sums this up. So naturally, I invite you to read it. So it has come up every time I've done the workbook with a group, whether it's been in person or virtual. There is always, and a really excellent question, by the way, people ask of me, what is your favorite lesson? And I say to you what I've said in a recent video. What's your favorite lesson? That's what matters. What speaks to you, and what are you going to do right now in the present moment to extend love? What are you going to do right now in the present moment to allow truth to be just as it is? You have in this workbook a number of highly valuable and effective tools. So, which one speaks to you? Which one does your inner teacher continue to lead you back to? And where will you go now, now that you've reached the beginning, end, not end, of the workbook? Ask your inner teacher for direction. So, moving on with this video series, as I mentioned before, we'll be starting the manual for teachers, and I'll say some more about that, record maybe one or two even introductory videos, but this is like a spiritual themed Q&A where there are a number of frequently asked questions. It's like an FAQ section that are posed. Jesus provides the answer. These are very helpful and very illustrative of how we can practice and implement these ideas in daily life. Very handy. And it's considerably shorter than the workbook. Now, included in this manual is a section that I also love called the clarification of terms. What's the Holy Spirit, right? What's the ego? Yeah. The Course uses language that looks familiar, right? Atonement, but we have a different connotation, a different idea in common parlance of what that means. And the Course means something different. So it is, in fact, a clarification of the Course verbiage, of the Course language and meaning, which is highly beneficial for the practitioner. So we'll go through that, and then we'll take it from there, because this video series here where we've covered the workbook is truly, as Jesus suggests, and well, it's not really a suggestion, it's a statement. It's the beginning, not the end, isn't it? So thank you, as always, for joining me. And please feel welcome to reach out if you have any questions. Those of you who are tuning in from Enlightened World Network, I will be notifying Terry and Dr. Ruth Anderson that this series is going to continue. And I'll be reaching out to you with a couple of videos or Facebook Lives because, well, I'm still an admin on the page. So I'll pop in, I'll say hello. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see all of these videos. There are many of them, and they're all designed to be a resource and a help, some assistance for you along the path. So thank you for accompanying me.